Hello everyone and welcome to another beer review. Now today we're going to do a beer that for me is a bit of a blast from the past. It takes me back to my young days as a teenager playing for the local cricket club. I know, a cricket club in Scotland, which is a bit of a strange one. So yeah, the cricket club that I was a member of, well, to be totally honest, it was just a drinking club. It really was just a drinking club. I mean, there was a couple of alcoholics in it for a start. I mean, seriously, Jesus. Bloody hell. Mental, to be totally honest. I mean, I've played football to certain degrees, and I've played rugby to certain kind of different levels. And none of these have been as bad as when I played cricket as a teenager. I remember it's a case as though there was we used to take cars up to away games and things like this, and what happened was that one of the players had a carpet shop, and he used to basically use his delivery van. He would just put a rug down there and loads of us would just sit in the back. So of course you'd be getting picked up kind of early in the morning, you know, back of 8, and we'd have a carrier already in the back, and we'd sink the carrier, and then what we'd do is we'd meet up at this first kind of pub as you come into Glasgow on the older A77 road coming from Ayrshire. And in this road there used to be a pub called the Malin, and we'd meet up there just to kind of, everybody gets there, and then we'll basically work out the kind of routes and the directions and on the map on how to actually get to the cricket ground that we're playing, usually in Glasgow, because we played in the kind of Glasgow district. And yeah, again, while you're doing this, more pints are flowing in the pub. And yeah, and what we used to do was, if we'd try and win the toss, if we win the toss, we would field first because we knew it was the case. So by the time it gets after tea, nobody's in any state to be doing any fielding. And yeah, it was an absolute drink fest. And my poison of choice at the time, just due to the fact is that I didn't want tenants. The hotel, which was Mansfield Hotel on the Avenue, used to have, they didn't have any decent kind of heavies and bottles or cans. I don't think they had any decent heavy at all. I think they're more of a kind of tenants lager kind of place. So the only thing they kind of had that kind of was more kind of attuned to my kind of flavour profiles and more of a kind of a maltier beer was Newcastle Brown, Nuki Brown. So that was a blast from the past. So yeah, in the kind of 14, 15, kind of 16 era, I was getting wired into this and back of old Fiat vans. Yeah, it was an old Fiat van. Seriously, sitting on a rug, getting half gutted on this type of stuff. So I don't know what it tastes like now. I mean, obviously it wasn't such a really kind of refined beer and everything else. It is what it is, but it's 4.7%, it's 500ml. I think it's £1.75 for Mazda. And I just seen it, I thought, yeah, I haven't had one really since all the way back then. I thought, let's see what it's like, really. And of course, it's brewed in Tadcaster Brewery, North Yorkshire, funnily enough. And of course, what else does it say? And of course, it's Heineken again in Broadway Park, Edinburgh. But yeah, so it's brewed at the Tadcaster Brewery, and of course, it's a Heineken product now. Oh no, I'm just reading the back label. And you got, did you know? As it says, did you know? And I was, did you know? Or did you know? Newcastle Brown Ale is affectionately known as Dog by those in the know. I'm gammon to see a man about a dog, as they say, and I'm taking the dog for a walk. Often were used by Geordie men as an excuse for visiting their local to sample the beloved tipple, I'm off to sea, apparently. So there you go. So there's nothing really about the beer. It's more about the kind of the excuses and the willy pish and lies that people from Newcastle or Georges would tell their other halves, male or female, that they were out to do something, but really they were just going for a pint. So there you go. And the thing is, if I remember being in Newcastle, in fact, I'll tell a lie, I think I had a few of these in a night out in Newcastle, in my early 20s. And what I did notice was that they'll just drink it out of the bottle. They'll just swig the bottle. I noticed that in bars and things like that. They don't really kind of pour it into a glass. And again, I've never really seen it on a tap when I was in Newcastle, that type of stuff. It was just always out the bottle. So there you go. So 4.7%, nothing really much in the back. It's a 550ml bottle, which is a little bit different. And yeah, let's get wired in and see if it brings back some nice memories. Tell you what, we were crap as a bloody cricket team. Although in saying that, though, I think it's the cases of having a drinking competition, we'd have probably hammered most. Bloody hell. Oh, you're getting cabbage on that one. Bloody hell. Oh, no surprise this is skunked. Jesus God. Oh. But yeah, that's what you're getting. But yeah, they were really bad. Honestly bad. Let's get this poured. Why didn't put it in clear bottles, I don't know. Or maybe that's the kind of flavour profile they're trying to go for, I don't know. But yes, it's definitely been kind of light striped anyway. Ooh. I'm going to have to fight to get this in the glass properly, haven't I? Ooh. Right, for the people on the podcast, it's kind of a kind of clear, kind of chestnut colour. It's a brown ale, so it's kind of a brownish kind of chestnut colour. It's broken a one finger head quite easily. It's got not a bad head on it. Smell wise, well, I'm smelling cabbage. That's really what I'm smelling, with a little bit of metallic. So I'm getting cabbage and metallic. It's the two kind of aromas I'm getting. And you know, it actually smells of, see when these two kind of aromas come together, it smells like a urine block that you get in the urinals. You know, a urinal block, you know, for the pisser. It smells a bit like that. You know, when sometimes you go and you start pissing and you think, Jesus, that's a hell of a smelling urinal block. You know, the little blocks that you get in the urinals. Yeah, well, it smells a bit like that, actually. Which is wonderful pleasant for a beer, isn't it? But yeah, I suppose I wasn't really doing the aromas when I was in the back of the van. It was just a case of cracking open the bottle and swigging it. Well, you like that, you know? That type of thing. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, I've got to admit, it was a good laugh, good banter, and some really strange situations. Because they used to also do at a festival, a cricket festival every summer. The team that I had, and they used to invite teams from around Scotland to come down and play over this kind of long weekend. And it was just a piss fest because they had their own beer tent and everything else. And yeah, most of the players spent more time in the beer tent than they actually did on the cricket pitch. They didn't spend much time in the crease, but they certainly spent enough time in the bar. But yeah, so yeah, it's not the most pleasant smelling beer, I'll give it that. In fact, it's quite ropey smelling, to be totally honest. But hey, let's see what it's like. Oh, well, first thing I noticed, you're not really getting any cabbage flavours. You're getting the smell, but you're not really getting any of the cabbage flavours, which I suppose that's a good thing. It's a bit sweeter than what I remember. So it is. And the flavours are very light. Very light. I mean, it doesn't taste watery, but it just, the flavour profiles and everything is just very, very light. And overall, it's just, yeah. You could just drink that. So you could, that's it. It's definitely a more sessionable, easy drinking beer. Mouthfeel's not too bad actually. I mean, there's a bit of malt there and everything else for a brown ale, but again, it being a brown ale, it shouldn't really be particularly complex. It should have a little bit of sweetness to it as well with a brown ale. Um, Maybe a wee bit gassy, but it's not gassy on the mouthfeel, but it's a wee bit gassy after swallowing it. It's like it's like fucking hell. Yes, it's a bit gassy after you swallowed it, but not really in the mouthfeel. Just not kind of overly carbonated kind of sensation in the mouth. No, it's just generally you could say it's easy drinking. Um, a little bit of bitterness there in the back end, but overall, I would say the flavours are very, very light and definitely not complex in any way, shape, or form. But overall, for the price of it, £1.75 for 550 ml bottle. If you want something with a bit of malt that's kind of sessionable, then yeah, it does that kind of job. If you want something just to kind of wet your whistle, I think it is obviously a kind of a more kind of mainstream, and I think even when it was actually done by the Newcastle brewery all those years ago, it was sold as a kind of sessionable mainstream kind of affordable ale. Nothing too complex, nothing to write home about, but it was a local favourite round about that area. And yeah, it was a good, easy drinking. I have obviously seen plenty of football games over the years, and I've been to a couple of Newcastle games. And I know going past all the kind of pubs and things like that, they were all swigging this out the bottles and things like this. And yeah, people seem to be quite happy. And surprisingly enough, a lot of the women were drinking this out the bottle as well, so they were getting all wild into it as well. So it's not a heavy flavour in any way, shape, or form. It is quite easy drinking, and I think it's a beer for the masses, to be totally honest. Which I suppose is fine. I mean, let's be totally honest. Would I rather drink this than, say, a Timothy Taylor landlord or boat maker or something like that? No, I'd rather have them because I like that little bit more flavour, a bit more complexity, the quality of ingredients and everything else, you know. So these are very, very nice beers, and of course I like drinking very, very nice beers. So from that point of view, no. But if I look at it as a more of a kind of mainstream kind of piss washer type of thing, would I rather drink this than say the likes of Foster's or Carling's, Stella Artois, Tennant's, whatever you want, all these kind of mainstream piss washers? Yes, I would rather drink this than them. But would I rather drink this compared to, like, say, Belhaven, Best, and all these kind of other ones and things like that? Well, yeah, I probably would. Because I think Belhaven Best is an absolute abomination. It's low alcohol, kind of nitropore, false creamy piss. Where this is a little bit more honest, I suppose. Again, nothing brilliant, but you've got to take it for what it is and what it's actually brewed for, what it's brewed to do. And I suppose it does actually. It's not. I mean, it's still got a liveliness to it. You can see it's hugging the glass and everything else. And overall, it's just a kind of bang average, kind of easy drinking, sessionable brown ale. And that's really it. Um, would I rather drink other ales? Do I know is there better ale kind of than this? Well, yeah, I think I did one not that long ago. I don't know whether I've actually put it up yet, but I did one from the Clitheroe Brewery, and that was a sessionable kind of copper ale. And that was just lovely. It really was. Um, I would say this is not as refined as that. It's a little bit more harsher and everything else, but it is kind of originally done for the kind of working man. I just find that like say we take that as an example, the Clitheroe brewery, it was called Pheasant Plucker. Um, if you compare that one, I think it was roughly about 4.5%. This is 4.7, and you just feel that it's more refined, the Pheasant Plucker one, and you just feel that the quality of ingredients is that bit higher, and it just and yeah, you could get yourself into trouble with that because it's just so nice and easy drinking from that point of view. Just a nice sessionable, good sessionable ale that with just a nice consistent standard right across from front to back. And yeah, this one isn't really quite there. It's got some rough edges to it, so it has. But let's kind of break down the flavours. Start off, you get an okay level of malt. But the problem is with the malt is it's an alright level, but it just feels it's not quite the best malt. It's a bit kind of, you're not getting so much kind of coffee or coffee, I mean toffee or caramel kind of tones. You're getting kind of, you feel it's just kind of, it's a slight burnt edge to it. So there is. So at the front of the mouth, you are getting slightly kind of caramel toffee tones, but you just as you're getting the kind of slightly caramel toffee tones, you're just getting this little kind of slightly burnt edge to it, which is just kind of just taking the edge off it. The sweetness is supposed to be a kind of, I would say there's a kind of okay level of sweetness. I mean, if I had this sweetness in a kind of standard bitter, then it'd be way too much. And things like that. But I suppose for a brown ale, yeah, you can maybe get away with a little bit more sweetness with a brown ale than you probably would in like say an amber ale or bitter. And you wouldn't really want this kind of level of sweetness. But yeah, a decent level of sweetness. So there's not so much grain there as well. Actually, there's a little bit of grain, but not so much. And overall, it's quite an uneventful front of the mouth. But again, it's not offensive in any way. It's just a little kind of rough edges that just kind of take the edge off it a bit. And then you move on to the kind of mid tongue. And yeah, you've still got the slightly rough malt, you get a little bit of grain, you've still got the sweetness there, but you're starting to get little accents of bitterness. But again, there's a kind of slight sharpness to that bitterness. Now, again, it's light bitterness, like little accents, but there's slight kind of sharpness to them, which just gives it a kind of slightly, the bitterness, ever so slightly a little kind of metallic edge to them, especially at the end of these kind of little accents. So the accents just slightly dissipate, just getting ever so slightly kind of a little hint of metallic. And again, it just feels unrefined and a little bit kind of rough and ready in the mid tongue. And that kind of translates to the kind of aftertaste. Where everything kind of dissipates quite quickly. It's quite a fast finishing beer in the aftertaste. But what you do get is ever so slightly these little kind of residual accents of kind of metallic. Light, not overly metallic, but just ever so slightly just kind of the back end of these kind of accents that are down your way. That kind of hoppy accent. Just get ever so slightly kind of metallic edge to them. And overall, it's okay. It's nothing brilliant. I would say it is a bit gassy in the stomach. It doesn't come across in the mouthfeel, but it does come across a bit in the stomach is a bit gassy. Because I feel quite a bit slightly bloated here, and I feel like I'm ready to kind of kick off with a cracker at some point. Hopefully after the video is finished, but you know, it's one of these ones you think of a bit of choking that would have started. Kind of scenario. But yeah, overall, it's okay. It's nothing brilliant in any way, shape, or form. It's I would probably say it's average at best. But I suppose there's a kind of honesty to it, and I think it was brewed. I don't know how this is. I honestly can't even remember what it was like when I was younger. When it was actually Newcastle, it was actually Newcastle Brew that was actually brewing it. Before it always became Scottish Newcastle. I don't think it was actually long after that we had the merger between um, was it McEwen's and Newcastle Brewing became Scottish Newcastle. But I don't think it's that far away. If I remember it, I was getting a bit more of a metallic. I remember a bit more of a metallic flavour back in those days. But again, that just could be me just being unrefined in my kind of palate at that time. That anything with a little bit of metallic just kind of stood out too much to me. But I did have an adverse reaction to kind of metallic flavours in beer. Hence why I wasn't a big fan of Tennant's, which was fucking Jesus. Yeah. Licking rust off a fucking Fiat delivery van. But yeah, it just it is kind of made for a kind of market, and I think it just at the time it was made for a kind of price point for that market. And yeah, it's okay. It's a bit more interesting, a bit more to it than say a cheap mainstream kind of piss water lager. But if you start comparing it towards kind of ales and everything else and price points and that, you'd probably see there's better ones out there quite easily. As I've mentioned, the one from the Clitheroe Brewery, yeah, a lot better and it's just more refined. You just feel the better quality ingredients. Well, this one's a bit just rough and ready. But what would I give this out of 10? There's a question. As it just feels kind of decidedly average. So I probably think the best thing, and with the price £1.75, so they're not asking much for it, and they're giving you 550ml, not just 500ml. So you think on the base of that, yeah, okay, it's a 5. It's a 5. I'll give it a 5. It's nothing brilliant in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to pretend it is. But I feel there's just a bit of honesty, a little bit of honesty to it. And at the end of the day, I would rather have a glass of this than say a glass of Foster's or Carling or whatever. Or Coors and all these kind of other piss waters. Overall, yeah, it's okay, it's drinkable. Just a little bit gassy, especially after swallowing it. Overall, it's a drinkable average beer, and it's an okay price, and they're giving you 550ml bottle of it. So overall, it's not a bad package. So yeah, so it's 5 out of 10, 4.7%, 550ml bottle. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.